Have you ever felt that? The sheer, almost tangible weight behind certain words. Not just their meaning, but their impact. Whether they're these whispered promises that soothe your soul, or maybe shouted commands that seem to shift the very air around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible how just a few spoken syllables can change your day, your mood, even, well, for some people, their destiny.
It really is. The power of language.
Exactly. So today, we're embarking on a deep dive into two really fascinating ways humanity has historically used and still uses this power. Incantations and affirmations.
Two big ones. Lots to unpack there.
Definitely. Our mission today is to figure out what truly sets them apart, explore where their practices might kind of blur together, which is interesting, and trace how they've evolved across all sorts of cultures and spiritual traditions.
Right.
Think of this as your shortcut to understanding these, well, potent concepts and how they're aimed at shaping reality through the spoken word.
Good way to put it.
So, at its core, very basically, an incantation is like a spoken spell or a specific formula, often quite ritualistic, and it's packed with magical or spiritual intent. An affirmation, though, is more like a positive statement you repeat, mostly to influence your own mind and, hopefully attract desired outcomes that way.
That's a good starting point. The intention is key.
Before we go on, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like the video. This podcast is known as the Deep Seat Diaries, and you can find us on the major social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Linked in the description section are all the resources in discussion today, including books, websites, and so on. Please go through our terms and conditions as soon as you can. Now sit back and enjoy the deep dive. So, Gay, on the surface then, both incantations and affirmations, they involve repeating words with this really focused intent. That would sound kind of similar, right?
They do, yeah, at first glance.
But when we really dig in, what's the fundamental thing, the core distinction that really separates these two practices?
That's a great question because, while they both use the power of spoken words, their underlying philosophies and where they're aimed are actually quite different based on what we've looked at.
Yeah.
Affirmations, they're largely rooted in what's called New Thought, maybe New Age philosophies too. They're essentially a practice of, positive thinking and self-empowerment.
Okay.
You're typically repeating phrases, usually first person, present tense, always positive, like, I am confident and successful. That kind of thing.
I've heard those.
Yeah, the main goal is really to imprint these desired beliefs onto your subconscious mind. You want to foster a positive mental attitude, which, the thinking goes, helps manifest success or healing or whatever you're aiming for. They tend to be personal, self-directed, often done outside of any formal ritual. Maybe you say them in front of a mirror or just in your head while you're journaling. Pretty straightforward.
Okay, makes sense. And incantations?
Incantations, now they're different. They are spoken spells or enchantments. Precise formulas of words you recite or chant to get a specific magical or spiritual effect.
Okay.
Spells.
Exactly. And they're almost always part of some larger ritual or ceremony. Think Wiccan spells or ceremonial magic workings. Often the words themselves are addressed to specific spiritual forces, or they're packed with archaic symbolism.
So not just everyday language.
Not usually, no. The language might even be sacred or ancient. Sometimes the speaker might not even fully grasp the literal meaning, but is believed to work because of its traditional power or its inherent vibration. And the way you say it matters. The correct recitation, the tone, the rhythm, maybe specific gestures, that's what's believed to release a kind of supernatural power.
Wow.
So if affirmations are mostly directed inward, trying to install a belief inside yourself, incantations are usually directed outward. They're designed to invoke or command forces out there in the universe.
That's a really clear distinction. But you mentioned earlier, and the sources say the line can blur sometimes. How does that happen? Where does it get fuzzy? Right. Yeah, it does get fuzzy. It's an intriguing point. The blurring happens because, fundamentally, both practices involve repeating words with focused intent to create some kind of change, either internal or external.
Okay.
The key distinction, though, it really remains their fundamental nature. An affirmation is basically psychological or maybe metaphysical self-suggestion. An incantation is more of a magical invocation or command.
Gotcha.
And think about the energy involved. An affirmation, you might say it pretty calmly, maybe almost mechanically, just part of your daily routine. But an incantation that usually engages strong emotion, sometimes even physical movement, to amplify the impact. One source actually put it quite vividly, saying something like, an affirmation might be spoken to oneself, but an incantation is proclaimed with the force one would use to cast a spell.
Okay. Much more intensity.
Exactly. And the intended outcomes are different too. Affirmations aim to reprogram your mind or attract things via the law of attraction, which is seen as a kind of universal principle. Incantations, on the other hand, they seek to directly influence the spiritual or energetic realm. We're talking summoning a deity, charging a protective talisman, maybe casting a blessing, or, well, sometimes even a curse in some traditions.
Right.
But here's where that modern crossover comes in, which is fascinating. Some contemporary motivational coaches are now actually using the word incantation when they really mean a kind of empowered affirmation.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, it involves speaking an affirmation, but with full-bodied emotion, really intense focus, and sometimes even physical movement, like striking a power pose.
Okay, I've seen that.
Yeah. The idea is that by engaging your physiology, your gestures, your posture, your tone, and your emotional state, the statement gets impressed much more deeply, more powerfully onto your subconscious. So you're using physiology, focus, and language together to generate strong emotion and help wire in those new beliefs. So instead of just quietly saying, "I am confident," you might stand tall, maybe pound your chest and shout, "I am unstoppable," while really feeling it, visualizing it.
Wow.
It kind of blends the psychological goal of affirmations with the performative energetic intensity you see in traditional incantations.
It really bridges the gap, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
okay, for someone listening, someone who wants to use words to actively shape their reality, what does all this mean? How might they approach these practices differently? Yeah. Maybe we can transition now and look at how these actually show up in the world today. Let's start with affirmations. They seem huge in personal development, right?
Oh, absolutely. Affirmations are definitely a cornerstone technique in, contemporary self-help spiritual circles.
Yeah.
For everything from manifestation to just general self-improvement, they really stem from that new thought metaphysics we mentioned, which works on the premise that our thoughts and words aren't just thoughts and words. They actually have creative power.
The thoughts become things, idea.
Exactly. The belief is that by consistently affirming your desired reality, you align your subconscious beliefs, maybe even your energetic vibration, with that reality, and you draw it towards you. A huge example is the law of attraction, popularized by things like The Secret. That approach really encourages combining positive visualizations with spoken affirmations. You ask, believe, and receive from the universe.
Right.
And there are historical examples, too. Way back in the early 20th century, there was Émile Coué. His famous autosuggestion was, "Every day and every way, I'm getting better and better."
I've heard that one.
Yeah. He advocated repeating it like 15 to 20 times daily. He believed it would reprogram your unconscious mind for better health, more success, overall improvement. Today, you might use something more specific, like a prosperity affirmation. "I make money easily. Everything I touch turns to gold."
Okay.
And you'd say it confidently, present tense, as if it's already true. The theory is that this sends out a matching frequency and the universe responds. But unlike incantations, there's usually no elaborate ritual needed. The power is believed to be in the consistency, the genuine belief, and keeping that positive outlook while you say them.
Okay, so consistency and belief are key there. Now, on the flip side, incantations. You said they're deeply embedded in magical traditions. What does that look like in practice?
Right. In disciplines like witchcraft, ceremonial magic, various occult arts, incantations are really vital tools. They're used to focus and direct spiritual energy. In Wicca and modern witchcraft, for example, spells often involve chanting a rhyming incantation while doing actions, like lighting specific candles or mixing herbs, all designed to raise and direct energy towards a goal.
The rhyme helps.
Practitioners often find it does, yeah. The rhythm and repetition can help achieve a kind of trance-like focus. One witchcraft guide actually notes something like, when you structure your incantation in a rhyme, you are effectively doubling the strength of your spell.
Interesting.
So imagine a witch doing a prosperity spell. They might light a green candle, focus, and chant, "Wealth and fortune come to me as I will, so mote it be."
So mote it be. I've heard that too.
Exactly. It's a traditional Wiccan closure. It means, so may it be done, or so must it be. It acts like a ritual seal on the intention. And this incantation, it's spoken aloud with focused will, with emotion, sometimes repeatedly to build up the power. It's like an energy directing mechanism.
Okay. And ceremonial magic, you mentioned that's different again.
Yeah, moving into ceremonial magic, like rituals based on Hermetic or Kabbalistic traditions, the incantations tend to be much more elaborate. Often they're drawn directly from ancient texts, grimoires.
Right, those old magic books.
Precisely. Magicians might recite invocations in Latin or Hebrew or even Enochian. That's a complex angelic language said to have been revealed to occultists back in the 16th century. The purpose? summoning specific spiritual entities, banishing unwanted forces, charging objects like talismans with magical power.
So quite complex.
Very. A famous example, maybe, is the word abrahadabra, introduced by the occultist Aleister Crowley. It wasn't just a random word, it was a specific magical formula representing the achievement of one's highest spiritual path, the great work. It's packed with symbolic layers, vibrations. Its potency isn't just in saying it, but in the practitioner internalizing its deep meaning.
Wow.
And during the ritual, chanting something like that with precise intonation is believed to open channels to, well, higher planes or specific entities. In those contexts, a simple positive affirmation like, I am powerful, it would just be seen as far too tame.
Right, not the right tool for the job.
Exactly. What's needed is a potent incantation, believed capable of unleashing significant power when performed correctly. And the stakes are higher, too. Many traditions warn that getting the recitation wrong could nullify the magic or even cause it to backfire.
Whereas messing up an affirmation just means...
It probably just doesn't work as well on your own psyche. Yeah, the consequences are usually thought to be much lower.
That's a really fascinating contrast. But it brings up an even deeper question, maybe the biggest one.
Yeah.
Why do people actually believe these practices work? What's the thinking behind it? Let's dive into those esoteric and cultural roots.
Okay, yeah, let's look at the why. If we start with Western esoteric traditions, particularly Hermetic philosophy, that gives us a foundational metaphysical framework. Hermeticism basically posits that all is mind, meaning the entire universe is fundamentally a mental or spiritual construct. So thought and vibration are seen as underlying all of reality. And if that's true, then a focused mind or a spoken word, which is essentially thought made audible, a vibration can directly influence events. Ah, okay. So words literally shape reality in that view.
That's the idea. Incantations in ceremonial magic are built right on that principle. For instance, those Kabbalistic or Enochian incantations we mentioned, they're based on the belief that specific names of God, angels, even certain symbolic, barbarous words carry the precise vibrational frequency of the forces they represent.
So saying the name is calling the force.
In essence, yes. By uttering these names with the correct tone, the correct intention, the magician believes they can literally invoke and direct those very forces. The ritual context, the circles, the wands, the incense, it all serves to focus and amplify the effect of those incanted words.
Makes sense within that framework.
And think about abracadabra. We think of it as stage magic.
Yeah, pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
But it was actually used way back in late antiquity as a serious healing incantation, believed to cure fevers. Some scholars trace its origin to an Aramaic phrase, avracadabra, which could mean I will create as I speak.
Wow, I will create as I speak. That's powerful. Isn't it? It captures the essence perfectly. In Hermetic and occult philosophy, uttering a true word of power isn't just talking, it's an act of creation. There's also a huge emphasis on the magician's will and belief. Groups like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn taught that it's the magician's willpower, intensely focused through visualization and the specific vibration of the words, that truly empowers an incantation.
Which sounds a bit like the belief needed for affirmations.
It does resonate, doesn't it? New Thought teachers also insist affirmations only work if you genuinely believe and feel them. The main difference often lies in the ritual complexity and whether you're using ancient, maybe secret words versus personal, plain language.
Okay, and what about witchcraft and Wicca? How do they see the power behind incantations?
Witchcraft, especially contemporary Wicca, often operates within more of a folk magical, nature-oriented framework, though it definitely borrows some Hermetic ideas too. Incantations are absolutely central to spellcasting. They're used to invoke the elements, deities, specific energies.
Like calling the directions.
Exactly. A typical Wiccan ritual might open by calling the quarters, "Hail, guardians of the East, powers of air," inviting those elemental spirits to witness and lend their energy. During a spell, that rhyming chant we talked about poetically states the intention and uses repetition to build energy, sometimes called raising the cone of power.
Cone of power.
Yeah, it's a visualization technique where the energy raised during the chant is shaped into a cone and then released towards the goal when the chant reaches its peak. And witches frequently end spells with phrases like, "So mote it be," that old way of saying, "So may it be done," similar to an amen in its function. The mechanics here are kind of a blend of psychology and metaphysics. The rhyme and rhythm help the witch focus their will, get into an altered state. Many practitioners believe they are manipulating a literal energy, sometimes called personal power or mana, through these words.
So the words direct the energy.
That's the idea. The incantation focuses the intention and steers that energy. Emotionally stirring words, visualization-friendly language that's crucial to charge the words, which interestingly aligns with modern motivational ideas about engaging emotion. Historically, these practices descend from folk magic, medieval spellcraft. Think village cunning folk reciting charms for healing or finding lost items. While modern witches might use affirmations for self-programming, I'm a strong witch, the core magical work often relies on incantations to command or request the universe or specific deities to shift things.
Got it. And Wicca's harmony ethic must influence the wording, too.
Absolutely. It strongly encourages positive wording, aiming for beneficial outcomes, which actually brings it closer in spirit to affirmations sometimes.
I hope you're enjoying the topic so far. Please subscribe to the Deep Seek Diaries and like this video. Don't forget you can find us on the major social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Linked in the description section are all the resources in discussion today, including books, websites, and so on.
Now, moving to New Thought metaphysics, this is really where affirmations as we know them today took shape, mostly late 19th, early 20th century. New Thought proponents taught these, revolutionary ideas for the time, like thoughts become things and change your thinking, change your life.
Foundational self-help concepts.
Totally. Central to this is the idea that your mind, your beliefs, are the true reality and your physical circumstances just reflect your inner mental states. So instead of complex rituals, the main tools for change became affirmations, visualization, and a specific kind of prayer aimed at tuning into what they called the divine mind.
Yeah.
Affirmations here are basically conscious autosuggestion. We mentioned Emil Coué. He showed that repeating a positive suggestion every day, in every way I'm getting better and better, could genuinely help heal ailments by planting a new, healthier idea in the subconscious.
Right. Reprogramming.
Exactly. Think of Florence Scovel Shinn's powerful affirmations too, like, I have a wonderful work in a wonderful way, I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. These were effectively personal incantations, but without needing traditional magical props or invoking specific pagan deities. Instead, New Thought often invokes spiritual principles or God in a more universal, law-like sense. They talk about affirmative prayer. You're not begging God for something, you're affirming that the good outcome you desire is already supplied, and you're aligning yourself with that universal truth.
So it's about alignment, not petition.
Precisely. The metaphysical idea is that human consciousness is deeply connected, maybe even one, with the divine. So a confident, positive declaration of truth is believed to carry the power of the divine itself. People like Norman Vincent Peale, Louise Hay, and of course The Secret brought these ideas to a massive audience, teaching that by affirming and feeling your desired reality, you actively attract it.
And you mentioned Tony Robbins using incantation.
Yeah. Interestingly, Tony Robbins, the motivational guru, often calls his very emotionally charged affirmations incantations. He almost treats the psyche like a spirit you can conjure or command. He might have people shout things like, I now command my subconscious mind too, which definitely has that incantatory, commanding tone.
Blurring the lines again.
It really does. The esoteric roots of New Thought are quite mixed, pulling from Hindu Upanishads, Christian Science, Hermeticism, Kabbalah, all traditions suggesting some kind of underlying mental or spiritual unity where words, backed by faith, have real creative power. Psychologically, of course, affirmations are seen as rewriting mental scripts, breaking negative habits. Scientific studies, they're a bit mixed, often highlighting that belief is the crucial factor.
Belief seems key everywhere here.
It really does. And unlike traditional incantations with fixed, ancient words, affirmations really emphasize personalization. They have to resonate with you, feel authentic to you, to work effectively.
Okay, that covers the West pretty well. Yeah. What about Eastern traditions? Do they have similar concepts?
Oh, absolutely. Eastern spiritual traditions have used very similar incantatory formulas for millennia, often called mantras or sutras. A mantra is typically a sacred word or phrase, often in Sanskrit or Pali, repeated for spiritual power or to invoke a divine presence.
Like Om.
Om is a huge one, considered the primordial sound. Other famous examples are Om Namah Shivaya in Hinduism, connecting with Shiva's energy, or Om Mani Padme Hum in Tibetan Buddhism, the mantra of compassion. These aren't just affirmations, they're powerful tools for devotion, for altering consciousness, purifying the mind, accumulating merit, even believed to produce supernatural effects sometimes.
So the goal might be different.
Often, yes. The core esoteric concept in the East is often that sound itself, shabda, is a fundamental creative force. Sanskrit mantras are believed to carry the actual vibrational essence of the deity or the intention they represent. The power isn't just in the meaning, it's in the sound current experienced through repetition. Now, in Eastern folk practices and some occult traditions, specific incantations are used for tangible effects, protection, luck, exorcisms. This might involve reciting specific sutra verses or short Buddhist ritual chants called dharans. Taoist sorcerers use incantations to invoke deities. Vedic priests chant ancient Sanskrit hymns to invoke gods and maintain cosmic order.
So invocation is common there, too.
Very common. While traditional Eastern paths didn't really have affirmations in the modern self-help sense, they have analogous practices, like Sankalpa in yoga, which is setting a deeply felt resolve or intention, or metta, loving-kindness meditation in Buddhism, where you repeat phrases like, may I be happy, may I be safe.
That sounds a bit like an affirmation.
It does, doesn't it? And modern yoga studios often blend Western affirmations with Eastern ideas, like using chakra affirmations. But a key difference often remains. Eastern mantras and incantations frequently involve direct invocation, calling on Buddhas, bodhisattvas, devas, similar to Western incantations calling on angels or gods. Affirmations are typically non-invocational, asserting a reality from within yourself.
That invocation aspect seems like a major differentiator. What about African traditions? Is the power of the word strong there too?
Incredibly strong. Across many African traditional cultures and spiritualities, there's a profound emphasis on the inherent power of the spoken word. Often they don't draw sharp lines between prayer, spell, or affirmation because all words spoken with intent are seen as carrying power.
Power in the tongue.
Exactly. That saying is deeply felt in several West African traditions. Whatever you could be can directly affect reality. This is maybe most clearly seen in the Yoruba concept of as, sometimes spelled ash. Yes, it's the divine life force, the power to make things happen, the command power that's released through spoken words. A Yoruba elder might say that when you speak something with conviction, you give it I, you empower it to come into being.
So words carry this life force.
Precisely. Incantations, known as afa in Yoruba, are carefully crafted strings of potent words. They're designed to compel nature, spirits, or situations to respond. An incantation for protection might invoke Ogun, the Orisha of iron and war, and end with ah, which means so let it be, or it is so, powerfully affirming the intent and invoking that divine power.
Wow. Very direct.
Very. These incantations can be wonderfully complex, poetic, often invoking specific ancestors, praising deities, stating very precise requests. Shamans or diviners might chant to address spiritual forces. Sometimes using secret or metaphorical language only initiates understand. In Haitian Vodou, priests invoke the Loa, the spirits or deities, through chants with African roots. The belief that words directly affect people and the environment is deeply ingrained. Curses and blessings are taken extremely seriously. There's a strong focus on speeding blessings, speaking positive outcomes into being, which certainly aligns with the spirit of affirmations.
But the source of the power might be seen differently.
Often, yes. The power might be rooted in communal belief, spiritual authority, or the relationship with specific spirits or ancestors, rather than just individual mindset or a universal law. A Yoruba healer chanting over herbs for a client's business success, maybe saying, "Oh, you forces of prosperity, That's often more direct, more invocational than a typical self-affirmation. Call and response chanting is also common, making it a shared communal experience sometimes.
That communal aspect is interesting.
It is. And it's worth noting, too, in African diasporic spirituality, like the Word of Faith movement in some churches, there's a huge emphasis on confessing positive declarations from the Bible. These function like religious affirmations, spoken with passion, almost like incantations, based on the theology that words spoken in faith activate God's promises.
So the cultural comfort with word power is still very present.
Absolutely. So, summarizing African traditions. Incantations are formalized, powerful speech acts, often needing someone with a den to voice them effectively, invoking spiritual help, or declaring reality. Affirmation-like practices exist in positive prayer and blessings, but often the framework involves specific spirits or ancestors responding, not just a universal law. Yet underlying it all is that profound conviction in the spoken word.
That's an amazing overview of the different beliefs. It really shows how universal this idea is, even with the different flavors. To really nail this down, maybe we could look at some concrete, practical examples side by side.
Definitely. Let's walk through a few clear examples across these traditions. First, witchcraft, specifically Wiccan. An incantation for prosperity. In a candle spell for money, a Wiccan might focus and chant, "Wealth and fortune, come to me as I will, so mote it be."
Okay. Rhyming, direct command, the closing phrase.
Exactly. Visualizing money flowing, calling on the universe or energies to fulfill the witch's will, and so mote it be seals it. Ritual stamp. Now, ceremonial magic. An invocation from, say, the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. While drawing pentagrams in the air, the magician vibrates sacred names. Before me, Raphael. Behind me, Gabriel. At my right hand, Michael. At my left hand, Oriel. For about me flames the pentagram, and within me shines the six-rayed star.
Very different feel. Formal, calling specific names.
Totally. Each name intoned with authority, calling on these powerful archangels to create a protected space. The power comes from the ancient divine names and the magician's focused will. It's invoking external powers, very different from just saying, I am safe.
Right. Now, law of attraction.
A classic law of attraction affirmation for success might be, everything I touch turns to gold. Success and prosperity flow to me effortlessly.
Said daily. With feeling.
Exactly. Said with feeling, probably every morning. It aims to program the mind for wealth and send out that vibrational request for abundance. No formal ritual needed. Powers in repetition and belief. Attracting things through mental and metaphysical alignment. It's like a self-directed spell, but working through the subconscious and universal law, not spirits.
Okay. African tradition example. You mentioned Yoruba healing.
Right. A hypothetical incantation from a Yoruba babalawo, a priest, for healing might sound something like this, maybe chanted softly. Spirits of my fathers, come near and hear my call. By the power of At, let this sickness fall. Bones be strengthened, blood be pure. As I speak these words, the cure is sure. At.
Invoking ancestors? Using direct command for healing, then sealing it.
Precisely. It blends prayer, command, and affirmative declaration, harnessing that specific cultural concept of that.
And finally, Eastern mantra.
Let's take the Medicine Buddha mantra. Tayatha Ombakanse Bakanse Maha Bakanse Radza Samudgate Soha. A devotee seeking healing might chant this repeatedly, maybe 108 times, using mala beads.
Focusing on the sound.
Focusing deeply on the sound, the vibration, maybe visualizing the medicine Buddha. It's believed to bring healing energy, blessings. It's incantation as devotional prayer, invoking a higher power. The effect is mystical and mental. It's addressed outwardly to the Buddha, not an I am healthy statement, but the goal of healing is shared.
Wow. Seeing them side by side like that really highlights the differences, but also that core similarity. What's truly fascinating here is how, despite all these distinct approaches, different languages, rituals, philosophies, they all share this fundamental conviction. Words plus intent, power.
Exactly.
Whether it's a witch casting a charm inside a candlelit circle or an executive reciting daily affirmations during their commute, the underlying hope, the mechanism, is basically the same. Using the spoken word to shape a desired reality.
You've nailed it. In essence, incantations and affirmations might differ hugely in context, style, philosophy, but they are both these profound testaments to humanity's enduring belief in the sheer transformative power of words. An incantation is very much the language of magic, of ritual. It often calls on external spiritual forces or tries to embed one's will through a formalized, often traditional, specific utterance. It's typically outward-facing, maybe communal, definitely steeped in tradition, usually. An affirmation, conversely, it's the language of the mind, of manifestation. It's a personal, present-tense declaration aimed at reconditioning your own consciousness, internally attracting a desired reality. Primarily inward-facing, highly individual, crafted to really resonate with personal goals.
So like outside in versus inside out.
That's a great way to think about it, metaphysically speaking. Incantations often seem to work outside in, calling on external powers to make a change. Affirmations work inside out, changing the individual's internal state, their vibration, to influence external reality. But, that distinction isn't always absolute. Both can definitely lead to inner transformation. And many people today actually use both, seeing them as complementary tools on their personal journey.
Right, different tools for different situations, maybe.
Could be.
Ultimately, what really unites all these practices is that timeless, ancient idea that words have power. Whether you prefer chanting ancient phrases in a circle of candles or just whispering an affirmation to yourself before you fall asleep, the core element seems to be conviction and clarity.
Belief and focus.
Exactly. These traditions, in their own ways, teach us that maybe idle words, negative words, they just kind of dissipate. But intentional words, positive words, when they're truly believed, maybe they manifest.
That's the hope.
An incantation or an affirmation, then it's more than just words. It becomes this powerful tool of focus. It's about articulating our will or our faith, putting it into language, sharpening that intention, and then sending it out there with real purpose. Maybe remember that wisdom. Speak what you seek.
until you see what you've said, because maybe our spoken intentions, when they're truly backed by belief, are indeed a form of magic in the making. I hope you have enjoyed today's deep dive from the Deep Seek Diaries. Please don't forget to check out the link to resources in the description section. Hit the subscribe and like buttons as you head off if you haven't already. Until the next episode, goodbye.